Welcome to the Weird Library. In parts of England, there is a legend of the Black Shuck, a huge black dog with flaming eyes. Sometimes the eyes are red, sometimes green. The Shuck is seen as an omen of death. The legend of the Black Shuck goes back hundreds of years. One account published in 1901 states, "He takes the form of a huge black dog and prowls along dark lanes and lonesome field footpaths where, although his howling makes the hearer's blood run cold, his footfalls make no sound. But such an encounter might bring you the worst of luck. It is even said that to meet him is to be warned that your death will occur before the end of the year. So you will do well to shut your eyes if you hear him howling. Shut them even if you are uncertain whether it is the dog fiend or the voice of the wind you hear." Just a myth? Perhaps. Consider this episode's tale. It's from author Emma J. Gibbon, and it's titled Black Shuck Tavern. Enjoy, and remember, if you can, listen in the dark.
Black Shuck Tavern by Emma J. Gibbon. I'm being followed by a huge fucking dog of potentially supernatural origin. Somewhat ironically, I've been the coat check girl at the Black Shuck Tavern for 3 years. It was supposed to be a summer job while I was in college, but I didn't get very far in college. I was unprepared and I worried constantly about money. I couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't belong. People from my background don't go to college. I can see now that I was self-sabotaging, but I haven't got together the nerve yet to give it another shot. The Shuck made me feel like I belonged somewhere. On the strip, but set back from the road, the Black Shuck Tavern is understated in daylight hours, a painted matte black cube of a building, but at night the neon sign is switched on, a huge shaggy dog's head outlined in glowing green, its massive jaws biting down on a cocktail glass. It's the best-looking place on the block. No one walks by it without looking up. Once you get past the bouncers, the doors swing open to a treacherously dim staircase that takes you to the bowels of the building. This is my domain. You can check in your coat or bag or whatever and make your way to the bar or concert room. Everything is painted the same matte black, neon green arrows showing the way, the bar an oasis of light. The general manager, Felicity, holds court at the end of the bar every night. Felicity is a beautiful blonde trans woman in her 50s who's 6'7" in heels. She's been more of a mother to me these past couple of years than my own mother ever was. As I stand at the door, I can tell by the way Felicity is tilting her head that she's making fun of the new bartender, Josh. Josh is a well-spoken, fresh, awkward young man from the East Coast, evading going to grad school. Unlike me, Josh has a well-heeled, well-meaning family that he is also evading. He's been here nearly 6 months. I think we might be starting to have a thing, but I can't quite get my head around it just yet. I duck into the cloakroom, hoping they haven't seen me. "I love you, honey," shouts Felicity. She doesn't miss a thing. It's not that I don't have offers. I get them all the time. Freshly scrubbed boys in button-down plaid shirts from the Midwest, Canada, Europe. They're here on vacation. The Shuck always attracts a certain kind of crowd, a crowd that's looking for a little bit of danger, a slight tinge of Hollywood's seedy underbelly, but the kind that is relatively safe, not the further down the strip, crack house seedy kind. I guess I fit the bill. I'm a real-life LA woman with tattoos and piercings and no visible track marks. They ask me out a lot. It's not my scene. They're not my type, and I'm really not into being the girl you take back to your motel for an away-from-home one-night stand. Give me a fucking break. So this thing with Josh is throwing me for a loop. He is, ostensibly, just like them, with his neat hair and toothy smile, but at the same time, he is not. He seems to be sticking around. He sees past the eyeliner and black clothes. He sees me as a person and not an item on some bullshit sow your wild oats checklist. But still, what exactly would I do with a boy like that? We all know that once he's got his rebellion out of his system, he'll go back east to grad school and have a perfect preppy life. And what happens to me then? I've had enough people leave, and I don't need any help feeling like I'm not good enough. I hear shouting from the room behind the cloakroom. The other side is the VIP lounge, and it must be Lawrence trying to get attention. Felicity hustles by me to placate him. She's back after a minute. Be a doll and go get Lawrence a bottle of whiskey from the bar. She winks at me. We both know that she's fully capable of getting him a drink. She just wants to put me in Josh's general vicinity. She has romantic notions. I mock sigh dramatically and pull up the counter so I can exit the cloakroom. It's early in the night, and honestly, this is California. Not many people are wearing jackets. Our interaction at the bar is stilted. Josh is good looking. There's a naivety about him that I find appealing, despite myself. Can I walk you to your car? He says. I nod yes. It'll make Felicity happy if nothing else. Of course, there's the other reason I want him around. I'm being followed by the huge fucking dog, as I mentioned earlier. I can hold my own, but safety in numbers and all that. I ask for the bottle, and he passes it over. Everyone knows what kind of whiskey Lawrence likes. Josh holds the bottle just a beat too long to be comfortable. He's goofy and awkward, and I kind of like that. Lawrence is the bar owner. When I walk into the VIP lounge, he's slumped over the table looking rough. I'd call him a functioning alcoholic, but, well, he doesn't function much. Felicity is an angel, and she keeps this place running. Lawrence props his face up with one hand and looks at me through one bleary eye, the other closed painfully. He reaches out with his other hand for the bottle. Man, he is ravaged now, but still handsome. If you'd have seen him 20 years ago when he bought this place, he was beautiful, rangy and lean, with glossy dark hair and cheekbones for miles. Back in the 90s, Lawrence was the drummer for a grunge band, the only English member from a group from Seattle. He still has the accent. The band made a respectable amount of money. In his more candid moments, Lawrence will admit that they rode on Nirvana's coattails. What he will never admit is that his looks helped a lot. It's almost like he hates that part of himself. He drinks to obliterate his own beauty. He's not the only addict I know. My dad drinks too much ever since Mom left, but she's been gone over a decade, so he long since lost his excuse. We share an apartment on the wrong side of East Hollywood. We keep different hours. I love him, but I barely see him. Mom loves smack more than me or Dad, so there you go. I have no idea if she's alive. Lawrence opens the bottle and takes a long, deep swallow. You seen the dog recently, girl? He asks. I'm starting to wish I hadn't told him about it. Yeah, last weekend. He pats the padded bench next to him. Tell me about it. Felicity can handle the club. I go and sit down. He's my boss. What else can I do? I've been seeing the dog much longer than Lawrence knows. I used to see it when I was a kid. I know this is true, but I also know that it can't be true. The dog would be much older now, and we didn't even live in Hollywood then. It's so distinctive. I don't know what breed it is, but it's huge and black. Fur so black it looks like the absence of color. Short-haired. I want to say it's a Mastiff-type dog, but even that's not right. Its back comes higher than my waist, and I'm a tall woman, and it has this massive blocky head. Its muzzle is wrinkly, velvety, and soft, but nearly always curled up into a snarl. What's weirdest about it is its eyes. They're green and big. How many black dogs do you know with green eyes? How do I know that it's not a regular-ass if very large dog? I don't exactly. It's just a feeling, and I'll never be able to explain it. I know I used to ask my mother if the dog could come in and stay the night. I would be looking out the window, standing on tiptoes to peek over the sill. The dog would be sitting in the street. Dad was out working. He was a truck driver then. Mom would be nodding out on the sofa. She never answered me or came over, so I have no idea if I was seeing a real dog or not. What I do know is that living with a heroin addict as your main grown-up makes a big snarling dog seem not so scary. I remember seeing it in the parking lot of the hospital when Mom overdosed. As they wheeled her from the ambulance to the doors, I saw it pacing up and down. A lady bustled me into the emergency room before I could go over to it, and when I looked out the window from my mom's room, it was gone. The last time I saw it as a kid was when my mom left. Dad and I were packing up his truck with our things. Mom had disappeared and Dad had lost his job, so we had to move. And when we set off, I saw the dog running behind us on the sidewalk. We hit the highway and I forgot all about it, till now. It started again a couple months ago. It was early hours Saturday morning after closing Friday night. Josh had offered to walk me to my car. I had turned him down. I barely knew him and hated the insinuation that I couldn't look after myself, even though I knew he was just being nice. "Give me 3 rings," shouted Felicity as I walked out the door. I always called her when I got into my car and let it ring 3 times before hanging up, so she knew I got there. I walked downhill off the main strip and took a right down the street I was parked on. About 100 yards before I got to my car, I saw a massive dark shadow cross my path in the light from the street lamps. I knew what it was. It was familiar to me, and that still makes no sense. My heart pounding, I caught a glimpse of its massive black haunch as it slipped between parked cars across the street. I didn't wait to see more. I guess I wasn't as brave as when I was a kid. I knew now what kind of damage a pair of jaws that size could do. Panicking, I ran to my car and got the hell out of there. Felicity called me all mad and teary when I got home. So I told Lawrence about it, thinking he would get a kick out of it, with the name of the club and everything. I was just making small talk. He freaked out. Jesus Christ. He lit a cigarette. "It's finally coming for me." I frowned at him, but didn't mention I might have seen it before. He seemed angry, and I wasn't 100% sure he wasn't angry at me. "It's him. It's the Black Shuck. I never should have called this damn place after him. I'm such a cocky shite, thinking I'd escaped him." When I looked nonplussed, he beckoned me to sit. It was mid-afternoon before my shift. Lawrence was already fall-over drunk. "Back where I'm from, everyone knows about Black Shuck. Some think of him as a legend, others as a ghost. But I'm from a god-forsaken backwater where the folks know he's real. He's a big bastard, black like a panther, but very obviously a dog. He always shows up when you or someone close to you is about to pop their clogs." "Pop their clogs?" "Die, be deceased, kick the bucket." He started cackling. "I dodged him once, then skedaddled over here. They say live fast, die young, but I've hung on probably longer than I've any right to. I was supposed to go then, drank too much of this." He held up a bottle of whiskey. "Even for me, collapsed outside a pub somewhere in Camden. Just as I was blacking out, he came over to me and sniffed my face. I wasn't scared. I couldn't move anyway. But I'll never forget his red eyes above me." I started to tell him that I was sure that this dog had green eyes, but he had already passed out. I left him with his head on the table, mumbling about the Black Shuck. The next time I saw the dog, I'd finally relented and let Josh walk me to my car. He'd asked me a couple of times, and I had always said no, but I admit I was softening, and Felicity overheard once and gave me a pep talk. "Give him a chance," she said. "I hate you walking to your car alone, no matter how tough you think you are." We were standing at my car awkwardly. He wanted more, but I was in no way ready to give it to him. At least, I think that was it. He just stood there and stared at me. I said goodnight and was turning to my car door when I saw the Shuck run behind him, darting up the road. I could hear its claws clicking on the pavement. "Did you see that?" I said to Josh. "What?" he said. I dropped the matter, gave Felicity 3 rings, and went home. The last time I saw the dog was last weekend. I leave out the part about finally kissing Josh when I tell Lawrence about it. It's none of his business, and honestly, I'm still a bit embarrassed. Josh and I were standing by my car making small talk again. And I'll admit it, he looked cute, and I thought, why the hell not? So when he leaned in, I didn't stop him. As we kissed, he bit my lip, probably by accident, but hard. It made me jump. As I opened my eyes, I saw the dog sitting behind him on the sidewalk. Black Shuck was sitting like it was waiting for a gigantic treat, like you could pat its humongous head. This time it didn't run. The dog just looked at me with big green eyes. I had stopped kissing. "Are you okay?" said Josh. And I looked at him for just a second to nod, yes. And when I looked over his shoulder again, the dog had gone. I want to ask Lawrence if he thinks the dog is coming for me, if I'm going to die, but I don't quite believe it. Surely I would be dead by now. I've considered calling the authorities, but who the hell would I call? The police? Animal control? Ghostbusters? I think about enlisting Lawrence to call someone, but I immediately dismiss it. An old drunk ex-rock star and a hat check girl? What a couple of cranks. I could tell Felicity, but she already worries too much. I don't consider Josh. I don't trust him enough, and I don't know why. Besides, I've seen the dog before, and I'm still here, so what does it want? Lawrence absolutely thinks it's coming for him. His face gains a deathly pallor, and his eyes grow wild every time we talk about it. I don't know why he keeps bringing it up. It's like he's poking his own open wound. He might be right. He's drinking himself to death. He doesn't need the dog to die. I resolve not to mention it if I see it again, even if I have to lie. I go back to the bar before I settle in at the coat check desk for the night and ask Felicity to go and look in on Lawrence. She'll know what to do. Josh gives me a crooked smile. I think he's trying for sympathetic. I tell him I'll see him later. The night is long. We're busy, and I think Lawrence is having a rough night. I hear bottles being thrown and glass breaking. Felicity keeps running past me, looking harassed. Josh and I handle the club. Many of the people who come here want to see Lawrence. They get upset when they hear their idol isn't around. It's even more difficult when they can hear him screaming and swearing from the other side of the wall. At the end of the night, Felicity helps Lawrence up to bed. They have adjacent studio apartments above the club. Josh and I lock up and walk to my car. We don't talk as we walk. We're both exhausted. Our hands brush together, but we don't hold on. I'm unnerved by Lawrence, and I'm worried that I might have started it. It's not like he hasn't had drunken tantrums before, but I feel complicit in this one. Poor Felicity, cleaning up a mess I started. For the first time, I wonder if she's in love with him. No one is that much of a saint. She could get a job in any bar on the strip. She's just that good at her job. It also occurs to me that I don't know where Josh lives. I know he walks to wherever it is, but I don't know if he shares a place with anyone or not. I can't invite him back to mine. How is it that I don't know more about him? We stand at my car, as awkward as ever. I'm looking around for the dog. Josh asks me if I'm all right. I go in to kiss him, but something's wrong. When I look into his eyes, it looks like it's someone else behind them. He rolls his head, making his neck crack, and I notice that he's built a lot bigger than I ever gave him credit for. His posture has totally transformed, squarer at the shoulders and his head cocked to one side. He sighs and says, "I'm getting tired of this, Lacey." His voice sounds different. There's an edge to it, and his accent has changed. He sounds rougher and southern. "I've been very patient." And just like that, he grabs me by the throat and slams me against the car. The edges of my vision get dark, but my survival instincts are strong. I'm pummeling him with my fists and kicking at him, even as I feel like I'm going to black out. He slams his knee hard into my stomach, and it knocks the wind out of me. I try to look up and down the street. No one. Fuck. I'm scratching at his face, but he's like a machine. Who is this guy, and why didn't I see this coming? And then he lets go. He's thrown backwards away from me, flying through the air like he's in a kung fu movie. It's the dog. It's Black Shuck. It shakes Josh around as if he's a chew toy and then pins him on his back on the sidewalk, two huge paws on his shoulders. Those massive jaws snap at his face, and in seconds it's a bloody mess. Before long, he's not going to be recognizably human. I snap to my senses, jump in the car and drive, tires squealing down the strip. I think about calling the police, but fuck Josh. And how could I explain? I doubt there'll be much left of him for anyone to find. Black Shuck did me a favor. I sleep badly, but I don't remember my dreams. I go to the club early. I apologize to Felicity for not giving her 3 rings. She's so upset with me, she can barely look at me. Both she and Lawrence are sitting at the bar. I notice they're holding hands. Lawrence has a bit of color in his cheeks for once. "Where's your boy?" he says. I shrug. "We had the coppers here this morning. Seems Josh wasn't exactly telling the truth about himself. You haven't seen him?" "No," I say. Lawrence notices my bruised neck, touches it gently. Felicity finally looks at me and frowns. She reaches out her other hand to me. I take it. "Why don't you take the night off?" she says. "Maybe visit with your dad." "You really don't know where that kid is?" says Lawrence. I shake my head. "Maybe Shuck got him," I say. Lawrence grins at me. "You know what else Shuck does? He protects women on their way home." "She," I say. My Shuck is a she.
Well, it's good to have friends who look after you, and even better, to have a supernatural dog on your side. I love this story. It's another legend of the black dog, but with a twist. It's not just an omen of death, it's also a protector of some. And I love the tavern itself and the characters who work there. Though perhaps, along with our protagonist, these people may have been rejected by the world. Here in the Black Shuck Tavern, they've found a safe haven, a place where they belong. One gets the feeling that a novel, or at the very least, more stories could be written by the author. I hope that's the case. And speaking of the author, Emma J. Gibbon is originally from Yorkshire in the United Kingdom, and she now lives in Maine. She's a speculative poet, horror writer, and librarian. Her debut fiction collection, Dark Blood Comes from the Feet, from which this story was taken, was one of NPR's best books of 2020. Do yourself a favor and pick it up. I've linked to the book in the show notes. Narrator was Bridget Brenmark. Bridget serves in the U.S. Army as a musician, conductor, and band commander. Her service has taken her around the world from Japan to Afghanistan. She is a musician and an artist, and the Weird Library podcast has benefited from both, as she created the music and the art for this podcast. This is Mike Davis, inviting you to return to the Weird Library for another tale from the best writers of today and yesterday. Until then, pleasant dreams.